Shalom. And thank you for volunteering to be a Gabbai for high holidays at Congregation Ohev Shalom. There are, of course, two Gabbai'im. We have our Gabbai Rishon, who stands to the left side of the Torah reader, and our Gabbai Sheni, who stands to the right side of the Torah reader. Responsibilities for the Gabbai Rishon: calling the aliyot. They are primarily responsible for making corrections when a Torah reader is reading. Sounds trivial, but it's very important to hold on to the roller, the wooden roller on your side of the bima while the Torah reading is going on. You also have the responsibility of spotting the Hagbah. All right, so when the person lifts the Torah scroll, it's the Gabbai Rishon who should be nearby to spot them. Believe it or not, that's a challenging and important position. We want to make sure, of course, that a Torah scroll never gets dropped, but you need to be close enough to help if needed, but far enough back that the person doesn't feel like you're going to grab them or be in their way. Sometimes the scroll will wobble a little bit. If the person still has control of it, you don't have to grab it. If you do have to help them steady it, really important not to try and grab the top of it, because that can actually pull it more out of the person's hand, or to grab at where the person is holding on the handles, because then they can lose their grip. Really, all you need to do is, if you see a serious wobble going on, if the person looks like they're really in trouble, is to steady the scroll itself. There's no problem with touching the back of the parchment. There's no writing there, and that's probably the best way to make sure that you're helping out. But most of the time, nearly all of the time, it's not necessary to actually physically intervene with the person who's doing Hagbah. Next responsibility of the Gabbai Rishon is to direct ark openers and Torah carriers. So when the people come up to take their honor of opening the ark, you direct them, tell them when it's time to open, when they need to close. Likewise, the person who's carrying the Torah, you hand them the Torah as the Gabbai Rishon, take it out of the ark, hand it to the carrier or carriers, if there's more than one, as there are on the high holidays. And then when we are ready to begin the procession, just quietly give them the direction of where they're supposed to go. On a Shabbat, that's just down the right-hand aisle, across the back and up the middle. On the way back, when we're done reading the Torah, it's down the left-hand aisle, across the back and up the middle. High holidays, we have patterns for each of the Torah scrolls. You'll receive a copy of that pattern and direct the person where they're supposed to go according to that. Gabbai Sheni. You will mark the place in the Torah for the next reader, or alternately ask the person who's just concluded the reading to stay up on the bima for a moment and show the next reader where they should begin. You will hold the roller on your side so that the person who is reading doesn't have the scroll roll shut on them. You're going to call the page number and the verses for each reading before the actual reading begins. So the Gabbai Rishon calls the Aliyah. Typically, I will be giving a few words of explanation for the upcoming Aliyah for the text. Then you, as a Gabbai Sheni, would remind people of the page number and the verses we're going to be reading. Be sure to project so that you can be heard, project towards the microphone out into the congregation if it's a smaller crowd. Be sure that the Oleh or the Olah, the person who's had the Aliyah and has just completed it, steps to your side of the bima, your side of the Torah reading table, once they conclude their blessing. That way we keep the flow of traffic going. And then finally, Gabbai Sheni resets the table, the Torah reading table, after the last Aliyah. So after the last Aliyah is read, or the last Torah scroll is lifted and dressed, it's then the responsibility of the Gabbai Sheni to replace the standard, the stender, the reading stand, back onto the bima and make sure everything is put away. For both of the Gabbai'im, very important to review the parsha, know what's going to be read before it's read. Take a look at the pictures that are posted online for the starting and stopping points for that specific Torah scroll. The pictures that go online are taken from the scroll we're going to be reading on any particular day. So very helpful to be able to get a look at them. A couple of additional notes. When a Gabbai has to read Torah, happens once in a while, ask the person who has just completed reading Torah before your reading, before you step away as Gabbai to be a reader, ask the person who's just completed the reading before you to take your place as Gabbai. That way we don't have to go casting around for a replacement. Very important notes. There is a concept in halakha. In Aramaic, it's tre kale. It means two voices. We are allowed to appoint someone to be our agent to read Torah on our behalf. When a person gets an aliyah, they actually have the obligation to read. We are allowed to appoint someone as the Torah reader in our stead. That's typically what happens with every aliyah. When someone's called for an aliyah, the understanding is the Torah reader is their agent. You can only have one agent at one time. So if someone else is reading along out loud with the Torah reading, that's tre kale, that's two voices. That's halachically not permitted. So if you are a Gabbai, be sure you're not reading out loud along with the Torah reader. Not only is it a halachic problem, it's also distracting for the person who's doing the reading. Corrections. Mispronunciations that change the meaning of a word, those need to be corrected. Trope, for the most part, doesn't need to be corrected unless the person has not come to a full stop at the end of a verse. At that point, you need to let them know that was the end of the verse. Finally, keep in mind that we live stream all of our services, and there is a hearing loop, an audio induction loop that's been installed in all of the seating areas, including all of the high holiday overflow seating areas, ballrooms, and multi-purpose room chapel. Those devices, the audio induction loop and live stream, pick up sounds through the microphone that aren't heard through the speakers. So if you are anywhere near a microphone, and if you are a Gabbai, you're always near a microphone, even though what you say can't be heard in the sanctuary through the speakers, it can be heard through live stream, people watching at home, and by anyone who is using a hearing aid with a T-coil or who has a cochlear implant who is sitting in the congregation anywhere in the seating on high holidays. So please be aware that everything that you say up on the bima can likely be heard by people who are sitting at home or even people who are sitting in the congregation. Thank you again for taking on this very important responsibility. I wish you a Shana Tova and gratitude for your service to our congregation.